Welcome to Sound the Horne Sports Show. I'm so excited to host this groundbreaking program that will broaden the Jackson sports scene's awareness regionally and nationally. My goal is to highlight sports in Jackson, the state of Mississippi, and nationally by utilizing my 25 years of Division I athletic administration knowledge, and my guests will be experienced leaders in sports. The guest on the show will share a behind-the-scenes, unique, and informative glance of the world of sports. Please join me every Monday and Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on WeBelieveDigital.com. Welcome to the Sound the Horne Sports Show, and I'm your host, Derek Horne. Very excited to have our guest on today, a special guest going to come to us from the Tar Heel State. My guest today is Mr. Erroll Reese, He's the Alabama A&M Sports Hall of Famer in the sport of football, and he also is the Sports Shop with Reese and K-Mac co-host. Reese, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be talking to you.
Well, you and I have talked over the years, and I've been a guest contributor on your show, and you do an awesome job. I like
Yep.
the way that you handle the topics, and today I'm going to put you on the hot seat. I'm going to flip the script on you today. I'm going to ask you the question. So,
Yeah, that's a little different. I'm not used to that, so it's fun.
so if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself, your hometown, and what high school you went to, and maybe the sports you participated in high school.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. The 205, I always talk about it. And grew up there, and I went to Ensley High School. The Ensley High School now they merged Ensley with Jackson Lowland High School. Um, I played football there. Some people you may have heard came from that school. Cornelius Bennett played football there for a few years behind me. I ended up playing football at Alabama A&M with his brother, uh, um, William Bolden. But yeah, I played football and basketball at Ensign High School. I both made all city in both of those sports. And I really love basketball. I didn't love football. I just liked football. I love basketball, but football was an opportunity to go to college for free. I had a couple of basketball offers. One was for Southern Illinois in Chicago and up in Illinois, but being from Birmingham at the time and somewhat closed minded, I just thought it'd be too cold up there. So I didn't go up there for that. But Alabama A&M was about an hour and 30 minutes from my home. Opportunity to play in the Magic City Classic against Alabama State, which where I grew up was in Bush Hills, which is about 4 miles from Legion Field. So I grew. Matter of fact, into the high school, our home games were at Legion Field.
Okay.
So the old gray lady we called it. That was my home. That was my home field. So the ability to play there for the Classic in front of 70-some thousand people at Alabama A&M and on a football scholarship. That's why I went to A&M, and I went there, majored in computer science. Didn't pay that much my freshman year, but I got a chance to play my second year and started my sophomore, junior, and senior year, and then I had the opportunity to graduate from there. And the rest is history. About 12 years ago, I got inducted to the Sports Hall of Fame there. So.
Well, when I listen to you, our stories are a little different. I played football, basketball, ran track as well, and had some
Okay.
offers in both. But I said them jokers get too big out there on the football field, so I said I'll go ahead and play basketball.
So see now we didn't know each other for a while. I didn't even know you played football.
Yeah, play football. I grew up in a little small community, so you had to do everything. Either you played football, you played basketball, you ran track. If you didn't run track, you played baseball. But we played sports year round, so
Yeah.
it was unique. And I think a lot of people miss that because,
Yeah.
and I've said this before. To me, this is my personal opinion. I feel that so many children have these injuries now because their bodies aren't designed, but just to do one thing. Back in the day, we grew
A
up.
hundred percent.
We were all over the place. So
Man, we played sun up to sundown, and like you, I ran track too. I went to A&M. I played wide receiver. I was a tight end in high school. I was still skinny, so I don't know what, but I ended up playing wide receiver when I got to Alabama A&M. So that's how that all worked out.
I like to ask this question a lot. Where, you don't hear people say that too much now, but who was a coach or coaches when you were in high school that made an impact on you?
Man, there were a couple. Coach Gilmore was low on the totem pole in terms of coaches, but you know how it works when you got a coaching staff. The guy he was one of the youngest ones. The one that was one of the youngest ones that could connect with you. He's one of my favorite ones right there. And but John Gilmore, who encouraged me to play both sports because I was gonna pick one, but I ended up playing both. And he was the one in high school who kind of encouraged me. Then my dad, who wasn't a coach, but he should have been because he though he's the one that kind of kept me out there and going. I've done a lot of interviews, Derek. Nobody's never asked me that question, but he's definitely one of the coaches. But my mom being a school teacher too, there's a lot of teachers encouraged me to do some things too as well. Because it's funny. I say this all the time. I love high school. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, my younger sister and I, we used to get exempt from intergrade testing because for perfect attendance. I mean, yeah. I mean, I love going to high school. I mean, I was a little popular, and that's when back in the mid '70s, late '70s, everybody started dressing up a little bit, trying to be all cool and everything. I enjoyed my high school time, but I enjoyed high school.
Well, this is gonna blow your mind because we never talked about it. My mother was an educator, but she
really?
was also she was also the girls' basketball coach. And
didn't know that.
Both of my parents went to Albany State.
Wow! Now my mom went to Miles College in Birmingham, right there.
Yeah. But it's I like to ask that because I had my high school teammate on who's the head football coach at our high school. We won a state championship last year and has done a great job. Okay. And I like to ask people that because our coaches now need to make sure that they have some type of presence in our kids' lives. There's so much out there, and my basketball coach was named Arthur Gamble, and I thank him to this day because we might not could do anything else, but we could run all day long. He ran us to death. I get to college and we have our first practice, and we practiced for about 2 hours. And, everybody was bending over, and I said, "Man, we done." I'm saying, "Shoot, we still had an hour left when I was in high school."
Yeah, man. We, what's funny? That's interesting you say that because the people that I always tell people, I say, where you went to high school, where you grew up at. Mm-hmm. I talk about that all the time. I really do feel that way. And some coaches encouraged me, the teachers encouraged me. In my school, I was we was 5A, and we played in Birmingham, and football's humongous in Alabama. And every year, man, we always lost. My senior year, we lost both games. The game I lost in my high school senior year for football and basketball, it was a game to see who go to the state championship. And I lost both of those games against West End High School.
Okay.
And I'll never forget that. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned going to Alabama A&M. Did you have any other offers for football, other schools? And if you did, who was that?
Yeah, I had Alabama State. Actually, our rival offered me an opportunity to come down there, and that was really it. To be honest with you, Alabama A&M, Alabama State, then Southern Illinois basketball, but Tougaloo College in Mississippi offered me opportunity to come play basketball. So those are the ones I had. Then about 3 or 4 junior colleges wanted me to come on there. But I want to do something different. Now I want like you. I want at the Division I level like you were. I had to kind of tip around in Division II, which was just fine. But I was a late bloomer. I put it that way.
Well, this is what people need to realize, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And that was the SIAC, right? That you played in? Did you play in the SIAC? We got a little technical difficulty here with Reese, and hopefully we'll get him back in. But we have on our show Mr. Erroll Reese. He is the Sports Shop co-host. He and K-Mac co-host this. And if you can see if we got, I think we got him back. Here you go.
Can you hear me?
Gotcha. Got you great. Good.
Can you hear me, Derek?
I was just trying to, you know how that works. You got to try and find that filler.
Oh man, I used to just tell the stories, whatever, man. But no, it was the SIC when I played. Yes.
Yeah. And the reason I say that and I bring it up is because I would go, and I might have seen you play because I went to a lot of Albany State games. But
I caught 2 touchdowns against them.
Yeah,
I caught one down there in Albany. Yeah, I guess I visited Albany twice in my college career. Yep.
Mm-hmm. But the reason I say that, and you can attest to this, the talent at that time was still pretty stout.
Hey man, let me tell you, I tell people all the time. I remember playing against defensive backs who were 6'3", 225. See, and that's how you measure a team. If you got DBs 6'3", 225, and that can run 4.2s, that's real stuff there, man. And that's the way those guys were during that time frame. Yeah.
Have you ever met Mel Blount?
I have.
He doesn't look like he played corner, does he?
Mel Blount, how tall is he? About 6'5" or something like that?
About 6'5".
Yeah. See, I do have to tell the story about Alabama A&M. I tell this story all the time on my show. John Stallworth and I collectively, we donate $2 million a year to the university.
Mm-hmm.
Now the operative word there is collectively.
Collectively.
Yeah. So he'll donate this 1.9 whatever. Not get my 200. But no, the reason I bring that up, they had John Stallworth there because back in the late 70s and 80s, John Stallworth was in the Steelers were incredible.
Oh yes.
So they had John Stallworth Day at Alabama A&M, and Mel Blount came down, and Donnie Shell and Chuck Noll and all those guys came down for it. So we met them, and then Johnny used to come down every year in the spring and coach us, the wide receivers. And sometimes Mel Blount came down with him.
Yeah, Mel's a great guy. When I was working at Florida A&M, his son played linebacker there, and that's when I got a chance to meet him. And when I met him, I'm like, and I'm 6'6", I'm looking at him eye to eye. I'm like, man,
yeah,
and then you take a look at. I had a chance to meet Harold Carmichael.
Yeah, how tall is he?
He's about 6'8", playing wide receiver. so it was a monster then.
And all those guys you mentioned, they all played at the HBCU.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring that around. Too Tall Jones does a lot with Tennessee State when they play the Southern Heritage Classic. He puts on a golf tournament, and he's supportive, and that's one thing that I can say about him. They really, Doug Williams and Shaq, what they do with Grambling, they've been very, very engaging with them.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and you can attest to this because even though you didn't go to HBCU undergrad, but you've been this culture forever, a lot long, just as long as I have. To be honest, yeah. I think the brand for HBCU now there is the largest it's ever been. Would you agree with that? Yeah,
I think so, and I think what we're going to see is all it needed was some way to show its relevance. If you don't have something, like. Dion and his son and his top recruit, they're on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yes, unbelievable.
What he's able to do though is he has the cachet to back up. And I think what we have to do is alums and fans and all those things, we have to put ourselves in a position to support, like you said, collectively. Like you do with Stallworth.
John Stallworth.
You might not get 80%, but if you can get 10% of it, you okay.
Hey, I'm on the road. My name is still on the road right there. Let me tell you.
No, man, but I think we'll chop that up because we're getting ready to go close out our first quarter and get ready to go to the second quarter. But we'll put a pin in talking about that because I think the more you TV, radio personalities can talk about it, we can keep it remaining relevant. And I think that's the biggest thing of it is because it's peaks and valleys and it's relevant now, but it's not relevant tomorrow. But as long as we keep talking about it, we keep it relevant. And at this time, Reese, we're going to go ahead and let our sponsors say a few words, and then we'll be right back.
Sure.
Are you tired of living check to check and looking for residual income? We have just the opportunity for you. Join us on Saturday, the 25th of June in Jackson, Mississippi, as we discuss the sexiest industry in the world, travel. Let's turn your passion into profits, whether it's on a full-time or part-time basis. Please RSVP or text to 404-915-8626. We look forward to connecting and taking flight. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Q Talicia Garrett. I am here to introduce our New South Development and Training Outreach Hour every Tuesday at 2 p.m., giving you information on how to become a part of the programs through USDA and Farm Service Agency. We can be reached at 678-779-9468. We can also be found online at newsouthoutreach.com.
Welcome back to the Sound of Horne Sports Show, and we have my good friend on from the Tar Heel State, Hall of Famer, Erroll Reese, co-host of the Sports Shop. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you really want to watch a good show, he and K-Mac, now, they're good. They're good. And
Oh, man.
a couple of years ago, he called me, and I helped him out. They were doing a barbershop interview. They were interviewing the barbers in the community. Is what was a national championship game.
I can't remember what it was, but we call that our barbershop check-in. Yeah, we was doing that.
And man, those
And we still do that from time to time. Not as much as we used to. We still do that from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah, the guys in the shop that I went to, they really appreciate that. And I told them, I said, well, I think that's why I like the show, because what you do is y'all not talking heads. Y'all good, you know what you're talking about, but also, too, you pull people in. And I know that you have an abundance of opportunity up there where you're located and situated, but just to have that opportunity, and I've been on time to time with you and I always enjoy it. But what I want to do, though, is, and I usually ask my guests before we leave this segment, if you can go back, Reese, and talk to that 18-year-old kid, Erroll Reese, when he was 18, what advice would you give him?
Oh, that's a great question. I probably give him a lot of advice. One is that be patient. Don't be trying to conquer the world in 2.5 weeks. I call myself there a little more mature than most 18-year-olds, but I was still green behind the ears in a lot of ways, not really understanding what the world was all about. I was happy to have my father was a steel worker, great provider and a great supporter. We look like twins. Right now, we look very similar to each other. So I was almost an image of him. So he's my best friend. And my mom was an educator. So they instilled a lot of things in me. But I think, so I can't say, I grew up in a really good environment. And I think because of that, I had the opportunity to do some great things. But education was high on the list. But when at 18, it really wasn't high on my list. I just wanted to go play football and go see what college is all about. If I had to talk to the 18-year-old, I said, well, make education your top priority. Now, I ended up making my top priority, and I can talk more about that. But I would say my first semester, I was trying to make the team. I didn't care about, calculus and all this stuff. Even though I did okay, I could have done better, but I ended up doing really good before I got out of there.
Yeah, and I like to do that because, and it's amazing what you're talking about. Our lives parallel so much because my mother was an educator. My father, he worked. He was a manager or foreman at for a wholesale convenience store, wholesale warehouse.
Wow. Okay.
But it was the same. And now the only difference is I look just like my dad, but he's about a foot shorter than I am.
No, my dad and I, we probably, I'm probably a half inch taller. He's about the same height. He's about 6'2", and then so am I. So there you go.
Yeah. But my dad, they would always ask him, is that the postman, baby? He said, no. He said, no, that's my son. He said, I thought big. That's why he big.
Oh, that's great. But no way, it's funny how we've known each other for over 30 years, and just those little tidbits, Derek, like your mom being an educator, whatever, your dad, what he did, I have no idea. So our lives do parallel a lot in that regard.
Yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about Alabama State. And who were some of the teammates that you had? Who were some teammates? Alabama A&M.
No. Let me back up. I got to correct you.
A&M.
Yeah, man, Lord mercy. I can't believe. That's like I'm saying something about Ole Miss or Mississippi State or whatever school it is. I mean, you can't do me like that.
My bad, because if you would have called me a bulldog, I got upset. So
yeah, you've been hot. Let me say this though. I played for Ray Green.
Okay.
Ray Green was a guy that told me he didn't think I could play for him. Okay, Theo Dancy. Does the name Theo Dancy? Yeah, he's the one that recruited me.
Okay.
Then after my freshman year, they fired him, and Ray Green came in. But I'll be remiss if I don't talk about my coaching staff. Ray Green came in. He brought in 2 young coaches. Their first college coaching job. One was John Chavis.
Okay.
John Chavis, we call him Chief. John Chavis came from the University of Tennessee because Coach Green had worked at University of Tennessee, and Majors was his guy. Majors wanted to get his linebacker, All-American linebacker, a job. So Coach Green hired him to come in. And John Chavis ended up being one of the best defensive coordinators in the SEC. Mm-hmm. He working for LSU and Texas A&M and several other places.
And Tennessee.
Now I think he's in, and Tennessee. That's right. Now I think he's in Birmingham working for the Stallions. I think in the USFL. The other offensive coordinator was Woodrow McCorvey.
Okay.
Woodrow McCorvey is the reason that Dabo is a coach right now.
Yeah.
Dabo Swinney. Matter of fact, I see those guys in a couple of weeks at our ACC meetings. But Woodrow McCorvey was a smart guy, coaching at A&M. He ended up going to Alabama with Gene Stallings. He was assistant head coach there, winning championship. So this kind of pedigree we had at Alabama A&M. A guy by the name of John Montgomery, who a huge guy in the HBCU world, coached some in the HBCUs. We called him coach. He coached for the Raiders. He was on our staff. So we had quality coaching staff like you would believe in the early 80s. It would blow your mind. So that's what I played for. And on that team, we had 4 guys, and this said a lot going from Alabama A&M, Division II at the time, SIAC. We had 3 guys get drafted in the NFL, and 3 other guys, free agent signees and made teams. Reginald Gibson was the second pick to the Seattle Seahawks. Michael Wheaton was the tight end. My tight end, he played the 2 Super Bowls with the Redskins at the time.
Okay.
House Ballard, we call him, who protected Jim Kelly for several years in Buffalo as an offensive tackle. He was my offensive tackle when I played. So we had some guys, man. So I was fortunate.
And that's why I say, because, when you have a father that's an athlete. So I watch sports with him all the time. We went to games, but being in athletics and having the chance to work at, each level, but reminiscing on what I saw when I would go watch Albany State or Fort Valley State play, there was some the talent now is maybe getting back there, but it was pretty competitive when you played.
Man, back then it was real. I tell people all the time, man. And even let me tell you how real it is. Coach McCorvey, who I talk to often, because he's making about $500,000 as Dabo special assistant at Clemson. So he's just hanging out, making $500,000. we talk all the time, man. And he says, Reese, I tell you the truth. I've been to Mississippi State. No, he went to Mississippi State to join Sylvester Croom when yeah. And matter of fact, when he left Croom to go to Clemson, Tennessee, and Coach Croom was really was not happy about that. But he said, Reese, I'd have coached at Tennessee, I'd have coached at Mississippi State, Alabama, Clemson. The athletes we had down there during those times were fair anywhere at any program. And also, listen, he tells me that.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I really do believe that as well.
And I think the thing that we have to get back to with all sports, it's not monopolies are never good other than you playing the game Monopoly. That's the only time it's really good.
Right.
Because when you have a Monopoly, somebody gonna have to lose. And just having, I tell this story. I get a job at Florida A&M, so I'm talking with the president, and he asked me, well, why didn't you come to Florida A&M? Because I was only an hour from Tallahassee.
Yeah.
I said, Doc, you didn't recruit me. And even though I was a very good student athlete, I was a good student as well.
Yes.
And one of the top prospects in the state. But I tell people often, if Morehouse might have called me, or just because it's just you have not because you ask not. Now we're asking and we're getting.
That is so amazing. I really do understand how it happened. Some of the guys says, well, we can't get that kid because he has a different level. Well, have you ever asked him? Have you ever tried to recruit him to come to school? No. Well, maybe if you don't ask, it's a no already without even asking. If you don't ask,
and I think we're getting there. But I said it like I said it earlier. Relevance is key. You got to remain relevant, not only in the student athlete's eyes, but when it comes to the other side, sponsorships, marketing, partnerships. You got to remain relevant, and you got to keep those partnerships, viable. Like you do with your show. I'm sure you got some sponsors, and you have to make sure that those sponsors get their airtime.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And if you don't do that, and you don't remain relevant with them, then they're going to do something different. So
100%. I mean, we are who our sponsors are. I will not be on every weekday without sponsors. I can tell that right now. Yeah.
Well, we talked a lot about your time in Alabama A&M. How did Alabama A&M prepare you for life after football?
It was tremendous. You have to understand. So, growing up in Birmingham, my first 5 years I went to all black school, but the next, 6th through 12th grade, I went to predominantly white schools. My mom taught me in a couple of schools. But going back, for leaving that environment, going back to HBCU, predominantly black, it humbled me in a lot of ways. Seriously, it really did. Then, the instructors there were purposely, intentionally making sure that you got what you needed. It wasn't like a pass-through kind of thing. So like I said, my first semester, I was like, yeah, whatever. I went there wanting to be a coach. I came on one day, my dad brought me in the kitchen and said, Erroll, you good at math. I was always good at math. He said, man, this guy's coming out there on my job from Alabama A&M, other places, Alabama, making, at the time, $28,000 a year was a lot of money back in early 80s. And they're majoring in computer science. Mm-hmm. So I changed my major at that point, and I was good at math, and I started majoring in computer science. And then Alabama A&M had a huge computer science department. Now back then, I'm dating myself. We had punch cards back then.
Oh, I know. I remember that. I remember that.
Hey, you walk around. Hey, you type your whole program up. Walk around with a box for the car. Somebody bump into you. That goes your whole program.
No, having to write the program, that was tough too. You had to sit down and write that program. I'm glad I only had one class of computer science. I only had one.
So my computer science instructors prepared me, and then during the summer, I had an opportunity to intern. So 2 summers I interned with Tennessee Valley Authority up in Chattanooga and Knoxville. Then you can appreciate this. My senior year, between in the summertime before my senior year started, I had a chance to intern with Weyerhaeuser in Seattle, Washington.
Oh man.
And we have some mutual friends and fraternity brothers.
Yeah.
That's why I met them back during the summer of 1982. And just like you, we've been friends ever since then.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the reason I like asking that is because sports is unique. Sports gives you those skills that where people, I listen to people talking about team building and prioritizing and motivation, and people pay thousands of dollars to do that. But when you're an athlete, those are some of the things that are just intrinsic because, you understand how to put a game plan together. You know you got to be flexible, got to be nimble. And you also, too, sometimes, and I tell people this a lot, and I was watching Grant Hill, we're actors. He talked about being an introvert, but he had to, his personality had to reach his athleticism because, and that's what people don't realize. And what we're going to do, Reese, we're going to put a pin in this second quarter, and we're going to come back. We still got a pin in talking about that impact with, Deion Sanders, Sports Illustrated. But we're gonna cover it too because that's going to get closer to your show. But at this time, we're going to take a break and give our sponsors an opportunity, and we'll be right back.
SGECOVIDsolutions.com is paving the way forward for a safer city government delivering cutting-edge biosecurity and biosafety protocols developed internationally by top virologists and scientists using an all-natural cleaning solution, killing COVID-19 on contact like no other product on the international market. For more information, please call 1-800-281-9080 or visit us online at SGECOVIDsolutions.com. Let SGECOVIDsolutions.com provide innovative rapid facilities testing and world-class state-of-the-art biorisk safety protocols for all of your coronavirus needs. Call 1-800-281-9080 or visit us online at sgecovidsolutions.com.
Do you have something to say? Do you want your voice heard? Join the We Believe Global lineup. Be the star of your own show. For more info, call 800-492-5186, option number 1, or visit online at webelieve.global.
Welcome back to the Sound the Horne Sports Show, and we have my good friend on here, Mr. Erroll Reese. And I tell you, if you have time, you need to Google him, catch his show. They have a lot of personalities on there. And Reese, in the fourth quarter, I want you to really dig deep down, and we're going to talk about it because I just enjoy, from Michael Collier to some of the other people that you have on the show. I want to make sure that we can dig into that. But before we leave Huntsville, you mentioned it earlier, and I know just sharing with maybe parents or other viewers, talk about how to balance that academic and athletics because it can't be done. And you mentioned that a little earlier about how you did that at Alabama A&M.
Yeah, I did, Derek, and I think that's one of the important decisions I made to be a student athlete and as well as an athlete. One of the things that I tell people all the time, like my roommates give me a hard time about they have parties on campus, right? So sometimes the parties are starting at 12 o'clock. But what I used to do, I used to study up until like maybe 9. Then I take a nap. Then I go to the party. We have big physics classes, tests like the next day or whatever, and I just had to govern my time because I felt that at the end of the day, I think my major was going to take me a lot further than what I did on the field. Keep in mind, I was a good athlete. I won the best. I won the best player on the team, but I was a starter. I was competing, and I ended up being in the Hall of Fame, which I wasn't really. That test I really wasn't that bad. But I know the things I really want to do in life. I think I had to make sure I go to this Fortran programming class or make sure I get this physics class straight. And it became a badge of honor, so to speak. Be honest with you, in terms of I had my education at the same level as my athleticism.
One thing I heard Pat Summitt speak. And she did a motivational talk, and even if you talk to her players, they had to sit in the front row of every class. They had to be present. They couldn't miss. If they missed, she disciplined them, but the instructors knew who they were. And a lot of times you might think that's a challenge, but even when I would sit in the front. I would go see the instructor. I get my syllabus. I go visit with them. And it makes a big difference. And those are some of those little small things that our students need to realize, because sometimes that's the difference between a B and a C.
Oh man, you said right. I remember Miss Clark, who was a calculus teacher, like my sophomore year. I went to her. I said, Miss Clark, I think I got this figured out, but if I don't have it figured out, I'm gonna come to you, and I really want you to try to break it down to me. And just by that engagement and how I engaged with her that way, she knew I was serious about what I was trying to do, and she went overboard to help me and to be ready for calculus and things of that nature. Yeah.
Now, we're leaving Huntsville, and you went to work with IBM. I'm talking about back in the day, that was just the pinnacle of corporate America.
Man.
How was that experience?
Well, it's funny you say that. I got to tell this quick story, but you take me back, by the way, Derek. At the end, how they have seniors, they interview seniors at the end of the last game of the season, and close out they interview seniors, and the guy from one of the radio TV stations asked me himself, Erroll, what's your next step? Do you ever think about being drafted? And I looked him right in the eye, and that's what I said. I said, yes, I think about being drafted. I want to be drafted by IBM. That's what I told him. I swear to God, that's what I said to him. And that's what happened. I got drafted by IBM. Back in the early 80s, man, Alabama A&M, to their credit, based on the computer science part, we were pushing out 20, 30 people going corporate America to work in computer science somewhere every year. I mean, every semester almost. And I had an opportunity to go to work in Manassas, Virginia, Gatesburg, Virginia, Austin, Texas, or Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. And I picked Raleigh because at the time I did a little research, it was up and coming, and I thought it was a great place to go. So I had an opportunity to come work in the local communication control department for the programming center of IBM in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, about 3 miles from Duke University, and about 6 miles from UNC Chapel Hill, and about 2 miles from North Carolina Central University. That's where I work.
So, when you take a look at that, and I, a lot of us when we graduate, for myself, I got a business degree, and I said, I just want to go to work in business, and I did. I got a good job. Worked with a great company, but it really wasn't what I wanted to do, and had an opportunity to get into athletics, which really is what I should have done. But I look at IBM and just the reputation that it had in the industry. It was just it was the pinnacle of the career that you would want to get into, and we hear a lot about the culture of IBM, but if you could maybe just share a little bit about that culture, because I'm pretty sure that's probably why it was known like it was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I always wanted to wear the white shirt and striped tie. And at the time, believe it or not, that was a uniform, the wingtip shoes. But I embraced that. I really want to dress up every day, and I wanted to think I look good, and I go and feel good, and I can work good. But the culture was there. But if you were a guy that was ready to work hard and be aggressive, and you talked about lessons learned, football and sports in general taught you things like being a teammate. But often the quarterback and the point guard is going to be the leader of the team often. So you always got to know somebody's going to lead the group. So when you're part of a group like in corporate America, there's going to be a couple of people that's going to be leading the politics associated with it, know how to deal with that, know how to get playing time. It's the same kind of skill set you use in corporate America. The same skill sets I use at IBM. And because I was a student of the game in that regard, it allowed me to be successful. And I did well. I worked in Europe. I had spent time in France, spent time in Italy, in Australia as working for IBM for a couple of years. Then that time frame. So my tenure there was right around 15 years at IBM. Yeah.
You mentioned those countries. What was Australia like? You know, was it a culture shock or was it different? I know you had jet lag, but other than that, how was it?
Oh yeah, I mean 22 hour flight to Melbourne. I mean that'll drive you crazy. I mean you get off the plane and you want to get back on and go back to the U.S. But no, it was interesting. But you know, working abroad, I worked in France for 2 years. And I was in Australia for a few months or so. But the thing that stood out to me was everybody. Now, for you, it would have been crazy, but everybody thought I was a basketball player. Because you have to understand that I call it the trappings in terms of I stayed because I'm on assignment at IBM, right? Mm-hmm. So I stayed in a great hotel. I had a great car I was driving, and I was on a Spencer account. And where I was staying wasn't. The only people that were black that was working there was a lot of people from Africa at the time. So, but when they looked at me, they thought I played basketball. So, or I was over there doing a movie. Now, sometimes I took advantage of those things. But no, I was in South France. I was in Nice. Because IBM had a plant in a place called Le Gaude, which is about 10 miles from Nice. So I was in South France. I went to Monaco. I went to Italia, which is Italy. I went to Rome, all those places. Then of course working in Italy for a while in Rome. Then spent a couple of months or two in Australia. That was the best course, a life-changing education process I ever had in my life.
You know, I often tell people, you know, sports gives you an opportunity to go a number of places. And
I can imagine.
Sports got you to Alabama A&M. Sports got you to IBM.
Yeah.
Sports took you all around the world. And that's just kind of the benefit that you have if you go in with a game plan. And I was similar. I'm just like you. You know, I probably was talented enough if I would have just said, I'm not going to worry about my academics, I'm just going to focus on athletics. Mm-hmm. But I was like, you know, back in the day, that's when you probably, you know, statute of limitations up now when those alums ask you what you want. When they recruited me, I said, I just want a job when I get done. You know,
exactly.
I go to work.
Yes.
You know, so
yes.
So I think it's admirable for people to realize that you can do both, you can learn from both. In a number of places that I've been in my life, all of them, for the most part, have been tied to sports or because of the opportunities I got as a student. They gave me an opportunity to do those things. And it's
funny you said, man. It's funny you said it real quickly. I know we're against it, but I wouldn't have went to Alabama A&M unless I played football. Mm-hmm. Trust me, wouldn't have done it. Football got me there, and then the rest is history. I'll be forever grateful for the opportunity to be playing sports and have me to be in that position to take advantage of that. So you said that. That's a great point you made.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do before we close out this fourth quarter, I want to talk to you about your EWI technologies and how what was the thought process of migrating from there into EWI?
Man, I can't wait to talk about that one.
Yeah. No, go ahead. No, we're gonna take this to break. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, great. So I at the time, my wife she's working for IBM. I was working for IBM, and I always wanted to start my own company. My goal was to get groomed, understand what corporate America was all about, understand the technology more, and start my own company. So I started my own. Now this is back in the mid 90s when the internet wasn't even around. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I left IBM to go work for a Japanese company to learn the internet. I was only there for 12 months, but they paid me for 36 months. Yeah, the Japanese had this culture. If you quit them, you can't tell the customers because they save face. So they paid me. Yeah, it's really weird. Wait. So they paid me an extra 2 years, not to tell people I had left. So that helped fund. I know that's weird. So that helped fund my company, and what it was though, what it was is just initially making websites, marketing websites, and that launched into it's 2 or 3 people I met during that time frame are my great friends even to this day. But we started websites, then we started creating training classes. I did the first training information class in Raleigh, Durham in terms of what is the internet. We teamed up at a radio station. We had like 2,500 people in this huge place. And I was walking people through the internet. That's like a long time ago it was. But we did marketing. We had about 250 radio stations that we did websites for. It was kind of weird. And we branched from that into doing technology networks, where we started doing networking for a lot of technology firms, which really got me going because we started putting technology into housing projects.
Okay.
We teamed up with athletes, and we provided different opportunities for housing projects here in the Raleigh-Durham area.
Well, now this is the first time you and I have talked about that. I knew that you had, you branched out and moved into what you're doing now, and it's the first time we've kind of talked about that. But I think that it also goes back to when you look at athletes, sometimes you're a risk taker. You have, if you're going to grow, you got to take a risk. And then I need to find that Japanese company you work for, because I can tell them I ain't working for 2 years. I'll be fine. And I can make them believe that I'm working.
That was
hard.
incredible, man.
Yeah,
it was Fujitsu. Fujitsu was the name of the company.
Yeah, but we're getting ready to go ahead and push it through this third quarter and get ready for the fourth quarter. And I tell you that I really enjoy the content that we're sharing, because you're listening to 2 athletes that we found a way to not only use our athletic talent, but then find things to do that we love. So you're really going to like this last quarter, and we're going to go ahead and give our sponsors an opportunity to share their message, and we'll be right back.
Are you tired of living check to check and looking for residual income? We have just the opportunity for you. Join us on Saturday, the 25th of June in Jackson, Mississippi, as we discuss the sexiest industry in the world, travel. Let's turn your passion into profits, whether it's on a full-time or part-time basis. Please RSVP or text to 404-915-8626. We look forward to connecting and taking flight. See you soon.
Advertise on WeBelieve.global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our many global live stream TV broadcasts and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.global or call 800-492-5186, option 1.
Welcome back to the fourth quarter and last quarter of the Side of Horne Sports Show. We have Hall of Famer, A&M's greatest, Birmingham's best, Erroll Reese.
Man, I need to have you.
Your hype man, can't I?
Oh man, I need you to introduce me every time I go anywhere. You can be my hype man right there, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna dig down into your show, and if you would, maybe just share a little bit about how that concept came up, and just kind of some of the things that you want people to know about that show and its impact. It's not only had on you, but you really made an impact in the Research Triangle area.
Yeah, it's been an incredible ride, man, and hopefully the ride is going to continue. We started this thing back almost 11 years ago, and the concept was how I got started was here. I've been in this area for a long time, so I've been on a lot of boards and things of that nature. But a good friend of mine, you heard Jerry Stackhouse, basketball player from Carolina. I went to grad school in Carolina, so I met a Carolina guys while I was there. But Jerry Stackhouse and a couple of our friends, we started something called the North Carolina Pro-Am, which is a Pro-Am during the summertime. It was a 6-week league, And it was a #1 program, believe it or not, in the country. And I'll talk about that a little later. But anyway, we did that, and as a result of that, a lady from the radio station asked me to come on her show and talk about it. I did that. Then while I was there, she said, maybe you ever thought about doing some radio? I said, yeah, whatever. So about 2 days later, the guy that did her sports radio had a medical situation. So she asked me to come on. So when I came on, she called me about 11 o'clock that morning. The show was at 1 o'clock. And by 1 o'clock, I had Charles Barkley on with me. I had Phil Ford, and I had Johnny Dawkins. And she's like, wait a minute. I just called you 2 hours ago. I was like, yeah, but my network is my net worth. So I know a lot of people, and they asked to come on. And I never done it before there. I listened to a lot of talk radio. So I just did what I thought they did. And we did that, man. And then when the guy came back who was out on medical leave a couple of weeks later, she gave me a little show. And again, this was a small station in Durham. And about 6 months later, the owners took the station Hispanic. So we was out, I guess, out of work, not work, but we was doing that show for about a couple of months. Because I was on the board in a lot of places, the guy that owns Capital Broadcasting and one of the most wealthiest guys here in the Raleigh-Durham area, Jim Goodman, he owned the Durham Bulls, all that. I just went to him and asked him, hey, he ever thought about bringing in more flavor to his radio family? And this is how I said, the sports that you cover, basketball and football, I would say 80 to 90% of the people in that sport are black or people of color. Yet you don't have anybody in your family of radio stations of color talking about it. So you said, no, Erroll, that's a good point. Do a demo. I did a demo gave it to him at 1 o'clock. He called me back. On the demo, I had my boy Rasheed Wallace. I had Jay. So I brought in some firepower for the demo, right? I had to come with it.
Reese, you don't play fair.
No, I don't. Hey, I don't plan on playing fair. So I brought those guys in on the demo. I gave it to him at 1. He called me back at 3 o'clock. I said, what do you think about it? He said, that was good. So so they brought us on. We started doing weekends for about 3 years. Mm-hmm. Then about 7 years ago, they put us in from 10 to 12, which is not a really good time radio. Then we went from there to doing morning drive from 7 to 10 a.m. And I would share this with you. And this may be of interest to you as well. There, and this may be different. It may have changed, but at the time, and even I think as much as now, we got 3 people on it's myself, K-Mac, we brought in Pam. We had different females in the past, but everybody that's on that show they are all African American. Mm-hmm. And we're doing drive time. We're the only sports talk radio show that's hosted by solely hosted by African Americans doing drive times in the top 30 market anywhere in the country.
Mm. And y'all do an awesome job. I like your chemistry because I look at some where you have like I guess I call them the moderator between the two co-hosts. Yeah. And sometimes all they're doing is pushing information, and sometimes they don't feel like they're part of it. But y'all have a good chemistry.
No, if you look at Molly on First Take, and Molly, she's nice, but she's not going to contribute anything that's noteworthy to the conversation between Stephen A. and other guys. She's just directing, like you said, she's just directing the conversation. Pam and Jasmine in the past, Anna B., we had many. We encourage them, you got to be part of this conversation. And Pam right now, who was a major, her and Stuart Scott were classmates in the same major at UNC Chapel Hill.
Okay.
And Pam was in radio, but she's never been on that side of the radio. Mm-hmm. So she's a hard worker, and she's going to be pretty good down the stretch. But to your point, though, no, we're having a conversation like you and I have a conversation right now. And you got to be able to contribute to what we're talking about. But yeah, we've been doing that, man. We just had this month marks 11 years working for Capital Broadcasting. And the other part about it, D, is that we own our own show.
Okay.
They don't own our show. So they pay us like they would pay to put a Dan Patrick show on.
Okay.
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 So we're not, we don't work for Capital Broadcasting, but they pay us to put our show on. That way we have full autonomy of creativity on the show, our guests, and so forth, so on. And we have a great relationship with a bunch of comedians and players and of course personalities alike. Come out the box. We had to go hard with big names. That's when you get people's attention. Mm-hmm. Just like you're doing. Yeah. I mean, you got some big names, and not me, but you got some really big names. But I think that's important when you initially get started. I call it just to get your footing, if you will. Then you can rock from there.
One thing I want to talk about, because I want to be mindful of time, but I think this is something that's near and dear to both of us. And a lot of times when I came on your show, it was dealing with we would call the HBCU perspective. Yeah. From your point of view, what would you consider, and we talked about a little earlier, the state of HBCU athletics right now?
I think the state of HBCU athletics is as high as it's ever been since I've been around. I think some of the named people that's involved with athletics from the HBCU perspective have brought more attention. I think the talent level has come up. I think a lot of the mindset, I think more guys are woke, where you can still get the same level of attention at a South Carolina State as you would at a University of South Carolina. I mean, and I think that's important because a lot of people want exposure, but now with internet, IG, and all that, you can get exposure.
And I think when we talked about, we'll just use Dion as an example. I'm here in the Jackson area.
Sure.
But if you take a look at it, and I was sharing with somebody, I say, if you get any kind of late-breaking feed or you get anything, Deion Sanders is on my phone once every day. And that's other than Nick Saban, that's about the only other football coach.
Exactly. No, you. And the thing is, I was just watching the Sports Illustrated covers today and yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think Eddie George, I think people I think they're changing. They're making it and this I don't mean this by any disparaging way, but they're making it was acceptable to be part of HBCU. Mm-hmm. And we've known that forever. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, the majority amount of people have to get on the same page as well. So that's why I love my HBCU. I love that I went there. I love that I'm involved in projects right now, and I think this is most popular it's ever been there, in my opinion.
Well, I think that, and it goes back to what I said a little earlier, relevance. And we all from, and it's just not, it's, some people don't like to hear the slogan, but, when the tide rises, it rises, all boats rise.
Yeah,
and sometimes
that's exactly right.
Realize that. And I think there's more money out there if we all have a collective better product. So I'm always going to be an advocate because, my mother and father were both scholarship athletes and, at a HBCU. It's in my blood. I know it. And I think that what we have to do, and what I like talking about, and I think you've had me on your show to talk about this, when you take a look at the budgets and you take a look at what these schools have to work with, they're doing an awesome job to keep the doors open because you don't have those resources, but as you become more relevant, and I've seen not only what's going on at Jackson State, but look and see what they're doing at Florida A&M and a few other HBCUs that are really using that cachet to cash in. It's really just remaining relevant, and if we we got to keep supporting too. And I know that's why I appreciate your show, because you take advantage of the outlet that you have, but then you also have a diverse platform that you share.
We talk Carolina, we talking Duke. I mean, the basketball season is the biggest. Don't get no bigger than that. But we're talking North Carolina Central too. We're talking Shaw University. We're talking St. Augustine University. We're talking North Carolina A&T, which is a strong platform by itself. So they're right here with us. So, we have opportunity to go deep with all these guys up here.
Well, Reese, we got about a minute left. So if you would, maybe just tell our viewers on how they can catch you and, what platforms you're on. And then after you complete that, we'll go and close it out.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me again. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your support on my show over the years. You've been 100%. You've been right on target. And you brought the breadth and knowledge that we always needed for it was such a matter. Yeah, we're the sportsshotradio.com. You can go there, sportsshotradio.com. If you're out of the area, you can click on watch and you can go directly to our television feed. We're talking to 1.2 million people every morning on television, about 300,000 plus on the radio every morning. And we're so happy and pleased to be in this position to do that. What you will find on my show, you're going to laugh a lot, but you will also be informed a lot as well. Because I think if it's not fun, then why even do it? So that's been my philosophy from when I started this thing, and we're so excited. You can follow us on all social media at The Sports Shop 1. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on IG, we're on LinkedIn. Just holler at us. That's what we do. From 7 to 10 a.m. every morning, and we're broadcast on television from 10 to 12 for a repeat every morning as well. So that's where you go.
Well, Reese, you're a TV guy because you hit me right on the zero. So I appreciate you, and I know that our fans have enjoyed this conversation. And until next time, everybody have a great day. Welcome to Sound the Horne Sports Show. I'm so excited to host this groundbreaking program that will broaden the Jackson sports scene's awareness regionally and nationally. My goal is to highlight sports in Jackson, the state of Mississippi, and nationally by utilizing my 25 years of Division I athletic administration knowledge, and my guests will be experienced leaders in sports. The guest on the show will share a behind-the-scenes, unique, and informative glance of the world of sports. Please join me every Monday and Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on We Believe Digital.